Welcome to the Lovestead.
Hello, welcome back to Lady Lovestead Reads. My name is Jessica, and this is part 2 of my January vlog. It's Wednesday, January 15th. Let me tell you what I'm reading. I have dust jackets here because the books are downstairs, but the big book that I'm working on, and for me a big book is a book over 500 pages, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I'm reading this as part of the Lovestead trilogy along for January, February, and March, and my friend Jasper is my co-host for this. Her handle is Coffee and Crack Spines on Instagram. So here in January we're reading Legendborn, February we will read Bloodmarked, and March we will read Oathbound to wrap up this series. I have started filming a separate vlog series for the trilogy alongs, so I won't talk more about this in this vlog. I'm going to save that commentary for the trilogy along vlog, but that is the book over 500 pages that I'm reading because I rotate every other day between a 500 plus page book and a book under 500 pages. The book under 500 pages that I'm working on still is Darkly by Marisha Pessl. This is the Lovestead buddy read book for the month of January. It is a young adult thriller leaning into horror, and it's about this internship for a board game production company that produces these really creepy, terrifying board games, and this group of teenagers gets selected for the internship, but it's not what they think it is. And I'm about halfway through and absolutely obsessed with this book. I can't wait to continue reading it. Today I'll be reading more of Legendborn, so I'll pick this back up tomorrow. And then audiobook wise, yesterday I started the book The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control by Katherine Schafler, and this is adult nonfiction, and I read about 30% of it yesterday, and it is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a book about how to get rid of perfectionism, and it's totally not that. It's actually how to embrace your inner perfectionist in a healthy way, and is really making a strong case for that, and has been really, really interesting. And I will tell you more about it in a future update. But for now, I have to get back to work. I am tracking things.
Hey y'all, I have Influenza A, and so this past week I haven't really done anything at all. It is Sunday, January the 19th, and I finished one book. I finished The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control, but otherwise I have not been up for doing much of anything at all other than just surviving. So I've been trying to get back to my 2 videos a week schedule that I had been doing several years ago, and it was looking promising here in January that I was going to be able to do that, but it's probably not going to happen for a while yet since I've had this little setback. So I think I'm over the worst of it, but I still feel pretty awful. Like I'm super, super weak. obviously have no voice. I still have a cough and congestion. And so we will see what the last few weeks of January hold for me now. Hopefully I still can find some fun things to vlog for you. I will talk more about the Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control when my voice is a little bit more healed.
Hello vlog. I have a lot of reading updates for you. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, and I finished, as I said before, The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control by Katherine Morgan Schafler. This book was not what I was expecting it to be. It was something even better than I was expecting it to be. I went into it thinking it was going to be a book that talked about how to get rid of your perfectionism, and it actually is a book about how to embrace your perfectionism and about how perfectionism is just part of who you are, and the key is to know how to engage in adaptive versus maladaptive perfectionism. And so it talks a lot about how to do that. It talks a lot about some of the major pitfalls that people who are perfectionists fall into. It talks about suicidal ideation quite a bit because that is, I guess, really common among those of us who are perfectionists. And it talks about, the importance of allowing yourself to experience good things in life and to enjoy the simple pleasures in life, like a warm cup of coffee or like a hot shower or a good smelling candle, and to really engage with those things throughout the day to really enrich your life and slow down and practice mindfulness, because one of the best antidotes to maladaptive perfectionism is practicing more mindfulness and engaging in your present and not constantly ruminating on what you need to be doing to meet a certain standard. Overall, I thought it was a really, really helpful book. It's definitely something that I will think about for a long time, and I'm going to try to apply a lot of the advice that she talks about. And it's written by a therapist. She is a qualified therapist, and so she's able to pull in a lot of examples from different therapy sessions and things like that, and also just draw from her expertise. I do think that she wrote this book not to be a self-help book in the way that a lot of self-help functions, and that self-help is if you just do this one thing and fix this one part of yourself, then your whole life will be better. But she wrote it more in that it addresses how we are all complex human beings, and one book can't solve all your problems, but some of these aspects of the book could help you with these aspects of who you are. I really liked it. I want to look and see if she has written more. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was there's quite a bit left out, and she even acknowledges at the end of the book that she didn't include things like systemic racism in the book. She didn't include things like neurodivergence because the book would have been too long. But my thought is well, write a long book. It's okay to write a long book, and I wish that she had included those things and made it more inclusive and applicable to everybody. I gave it 4 stars. I actually picked up 2 different audiobooks that I'm rotating between after finishing The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control. I need a cozy right now. Mentally, I need a cozy for my mental health. So on Hoopla, because for whatever reason, I cannot access Hoopla on my phone without having Wi-Fi or data. And I don't like to use data on my phone because money. So I will just only listen to that when I have Wi-Fi access. So typically when I'm at home, I listen to the Hoopla books, and then when I'm at the barn doing barn chores, I'll listen to my my books on Libby, because on Libby I can actually download the book. Anyway, the one on Hoopla that I picked up is Happy Ever After at Puddleduck Farm by Della Galton. This is the 5th and I believe the last book in the Puddleduck series. And this is about Phoebe, who is a veterinarian, and she moves back to her hometown to help her grandmother out. Her grandmother runs Puddleduck Farm, where she rescues all these animals and, you know, helps Phoebe with her veterinary practice. It's just a cozy slice of life story. There's romance involved. Truly the best way to describe it is just slice of life. And it's so cozy, it's so sweet, nothing overly dramatic or traumatic happens. And it just is a book series that helps me to feel calm and soothed and safe. So in this last installment, Phoebe is prepping for her wedding. I won't say who she's marrying. Running her veterinary practice. And her grandmother is a newlywed. Fun times. The audiobook that I'm listening to on Libby is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. Now, I have never read a Josh Malerman that I have liked. I've never given a Josh Malerman more than 2 stars. I know that Josh Malerman is not the author for me, but I've been hearing so many good things about this book, and the premise is really interesting, so I went ahead and picked it up. So in this story, it's like a booktube darling right now. It's hot, hot, hot. So you probably have heard of it. But what happens is there's this family, a mother, father, and a young daughter. And the young daughter's name is Bella. And Bella sees this monster thing in her house at night called Other Mommy. And Other Mommy always asks Bella if she can go into her heart. It's so creepy. It's told from Bella's perspective, which is requiring Josh Malerman to do a little fancy footwork in terms of writing. Because being from the child's perspective, parents don't always talk to their children directly about the scary things in life. They tend to like code those conversations in this weird way to make them less scary or just avoid them altogether. They don't talk about if they're good parents. They don't talk about their relationship dynamics. So what is happening in this book is like, while Bella is pretending to be asleep, her parents just sit there and talk to her while she's asleep about how her mom is cheating on her dad and how, you know, like all this other like very adult things. And I'm like, what parent actually does that? I don't know anybody who actually does that, who's like, hey, are you asleep? Okay, you're asleep. Let me tell you all of these really adult things. It's not adding up for me. I will say that The Other Mommy is very spooky, very creepy. This book might get a 3-star. Josh Malerman continues to not be for me, but we'll just see what ends up happening here. I think this book would have been better told from a different point of view, perhaps, and it could have been equally creepy instead of choosing to tell it from the child's point of view. Unless by the end there's a specific purpose for that, because it's just it's not working for me. And I know this is one of the reasons that people have loved it, is because it's from the child's point of view. But like, no parent just sits there and is like, I cheated on your father, blah 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 blah, and has this adult conversation to their child while their child is asleep. It just doesn't happen. Oh, good Lord, let the noisiness stop. I think I'm a little bit overstimulated today. I am on the autism spectrum, so I'm a little bit overstimulated right now. I get heavily overstimulated by noise. And, Buttershaw's over here playing with a straw. Straws are his favorite toy. But as he plays, he like gets into all these things and makes all these noise. And the rabbits were making a bunch of noise earlier. And like, I love them dearly, I do. But I just get overstimulated sometimes. Whew. I finished Darkly by Marisha Pessl. I really love this. I thought overall it was super well done. There was a twist at the end that I actually sort of predicted. And I'll talk about it on the Discord with those of you who are reading this with me. Yeah, I predicted one of the twists. Other twists I definitely did not. But I liked the way everything came together in the end, in terms of what's going on with Louisiana Veda and the Darkly Company and the others at the internship and that kind of thing. And the very final scene kind of had my head spinning a little bit, just because everything I feel like in the last couple chapters wraps up so fast. Like, it wraps up so fast. I would love for Marisha Pessl to have slowed that down a little bit and taken her time a little bit more with it, so that we could get just a few more questions answered. I think that would have been nice. It did feel very rushed at the end, but I think that's my only criticism. Otherwise, I loved this. I loved the setting. I loved the vibes. I liked the characters, the plot, the intrigue, the writing. I thought it was so good. I love being in the twisted mind of Marisha Pessl. I just love her brain. And I gave it 4 stars. Okay, now I had mentioned in my January TBR video that I'm continuing my Cassandra Clare verse read, and I am in between trilogies right now, because the next trilogy, according to the timeline that I'm using, is The Last Hours that I need to read. But then in between The Infernal Devices and The Last Hours is a set of short stories. Now, one of the short story collections I just don't have access to. My library doesn't have it in any format. So I'm just going to skip those short stories. But last night I did pick up one of the short stories / novella. It was kind of more novella size, and about 98 pages. From Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, I read The Whitechapel Fiend by Maureen Johnson and Cassandra Clare. So in these short stories, there are multiple authors that write with Cassandra Clare, and this one was Maureen Johnson. And in this one, it is a flashback. I guess not a flashback, but we get to see Tessa and Will and their little family, like when their kids are just bebés. And we get to see some of the other babies that Cecily and Gabriel have. And it's so sweet. It was so sweet being with them and getting to see their families. But essentially, what's happening here is that Jack the Ripper has hit London, and the Shadowhunters believe that Jack the Ripper is actually some sort of a demon that's doing all the killings. And so they're trying to hunt Jack the Ripper. And that's like the overarching plot of this one. It is a one where it kind of starts in like 2008 with the more current Shadowhunter group, and they're at the Institute for Training, and then Tessa shows up and is telling them the story of how they hunted Jack the Ripper. So then, like, once Tessa shows up, it flashes back to the Jack the Ripper time period. And the characters that are in the 2008 timeline in this story, I have no idea who they are. And I'm guessing that they will come into play when I get to the Mortal Instruments, and that the story will make more sense in that regard after I've read that. And I might end up liking it more after I read the Mortal Instruments, because that's kind of what happened with the Bane Chronicles. Like, I started out with the Bane Chronicles before I read the Infernal Devices, and then as I read the Infernal Devices, I was remembering things that I read in those Bane Chronicles short stories about, like, Magnus Bane and everything. And as I read Infernal Devices, I started to have a greater appreciation for the short stories. So I'm guessing that this will happen again with the Whitechapel Fiend once I get to the Mortal Instruments. But I absolutely loved getting to see Jim and Will and Tessa again, and some of the other characters from the Infernal Devices trilogy, and just to see how their lives were progressing. And it was so sweet and lovely, and I really liked the experience of that. So I gave it 4 stars. And then the next story that I'm going to pick up is Nothing But Shadows by Cassandra Clare and Sarah Reese Brennan, and that is also from the Shadowhunters Academy collection. So that is the book under 500 pages that I will pick up next. Tonight's a Wednesday. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I read my book 500 or more pages, which means I will be working on Legendborn tonight. I'm about halfway through Legendborn, but as I've said before, I'm doing a separate vlog series for my trilogy read-alongs. And so I'm going to save all my commentary on Legendborn for that specific vlog. This weekend at my local library, there is a seed swap for gardeners, basically where you get together and like swap seeds for plants you want to grow this spring. So I want to, before Saturday when the seed swap is, go through all of my seeds, see what I have, what I can share, and start planning out my garden for the year, which is really exciting. So that will be at least something I can share with you in this vlog, is some very early in the year garden planning. Hello, hello, hello. Whenever I get sick, I don't drink coffee because I feel like for some reason I heal a little bit better when I go off caffeine. So I've had Influenza A from the 16th. Excuse my computer. It's being very beepy and boopy. But I've had Influenza A from the 16th of this month until, I mean, I still technically have it, but it's just like the congestion that's left. And today is the 26th, so 10 days. I went 10 days without caffeine. My first coffee since getting sick. Cheers. What kind of coffee are you loving right now? Let me know down below. Do you do just like a regular drip pot? Do you do pour over? Do you do French press? Do you have like a Keurig or an espresso or some other like pod machine? Do you like espresso? Do you like lattes? Like, tell me below what your standard coffee drink is, and we'll do a cheers. Cheers. I literally plinked this against the lens glass. Hopefully it didn't do any damage. I don't think it did. That was accidental. My bad. My bad. I finished the short stories that I was reading that are part of the Cassandra Clare verse. I think that I talked about the Whitechapel Fiend. And then the next one was another one from the Shadowhunters Academy, Tales from the Shadowhunters Academy. It was Nothing But Shadows by Cassandra Clare and Sarah Reese Brennan. And in that one, so that one, we are following James Herondale, which is the son of Tessa and Will. And he's going to the academy. He doesn't fit in because he's actually, you know, part warlock demon thing, part shadow hunter, Nephilim. I wish my computer would just hush for a second. Who else gets really like irritable or overstimulated by beeps and boops and things when you're filming? It distracts me. It's because I'm on the spectrum. I know that's why, but oh my gosh, I'm just gonna turn the sound off. So James is at the Shadowhunters Academy, and like with other kids, and not fitting in. He's got like yellow eyes, and so the kids call him Goat Face, and they think he's like part demon because he has these warlock powers. He meets some of the other kids. I love this about the short stories. I love getting to see the continuation of the character stories from the Infernal Devices. Like, I really do love that. But he got to meet like the Fairchild children, and like Cecily's children, and Sophie and Gabriel's children. Like, I love that. I love that. But this one dragged. It dragged, and it was just like, it could have been so much shorter. It was a novella. It was a little under 100 pages novella. Maggie's making her bed. And it dragged. And I felt like it could have been way shorter and had the same kind of impact. But basically, it's like explaining James's experience at this school, how he doesn't have friends, how he gets picked on, and how it kind of really affects him pretty deeply, as that kind of thing does affect a person. He does make a really good friend, but it's like a secret friendship almost. Like, he becomes friends with Matthew Fairchild, but it's like they're friends, but then when they're with all the other people, they're not friends. You know, it's like kind of that gross kind of thing that tends to happen when one child is an outcast and the other super popular, because Matthew's like super popular. I don't know. I understand why this story exists. I understand how it connects the timelines. I understand how it develops James as a character and some of the other like children who are characters. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, really hoping that in The Last Hours, which is the next trilogy that's coming up, that these kids will be in that trilogy. So it's like, so this isn't like the last time that we get to see them or whatever. I'm really hoping that there's that continuity in the timeline. But I did not enjoy this novella. I thought it was way too long, drug out, boring. It would have worked well as a short story instead of a novella. So I gave it 2 stars. And then the next one, there's 2 other short stories / novellas in a different bind up that my library just doesn't has, and you know my book buying ban thing I'm on right now. So I'm just gonna skip them. Anytime I get to a story in the timeline from that bind up, I'm just gonna, it's like Ghosts from the Shadow Market, I think is what the bind up is called. I don't have access to it. So I skipped 2 in the timeline from that bind up. And then the last one before we get to the actual novels in the trilogy of The Last Hours was from the Bane Chronicles, and it's called The Midnight Heir. And I love Magnus Bane. I think Magnus Bane is my favorite character in the Shadowhunters universe. Hands down. But it's told from Magnus Bane's perspective, and he's out and about in London, I think. And he stumbles across James Herondale, and James Herondale is wicked drunk. He's like off his rocker drunk, causing all kinds of trouble and shenanigans. And turns out that he's like super depressed and hates himself, which is good continuity from the story of Nothing But Shadows. After he gets bullied and stuff in school, and he just really does not like who he is. He thinks he's an abomination. He thinks he's a curse. He's self-medicating with alcohol. So Magnus Bane finds him and brings him home, and takes him home to Tessa and Will. So you get to see Tessa and Will again. Talks to Tessa and Will. And then he ends up going over to, I'm sorry, this is kind of spoilery. Let me put the spoiler thing up. He goes over to Tatiana's house. Tatiana is the older sister of Gideon and Gabriel Lightwood. And Tatiana wants to hire Magnus to kill a bunch of shadow hunters. And that's the story. So maybe in The Last Hours we will find out like why Tatiana wants to kill shadow hunters or what's going on with that. Maybe that will continue. But we also, when we were with Tatiana, we got to meet Grace, which is her daughter. And Grace is a really interesting character. And James is in love with Grace. And Grace is like, you know that phrase feminine rage? That is Grace. So hopefully, fingers crossed again, we get to see her in the Last Hours trilogy. I'm guessing we will, because that's kind of how this has worked so far. So far there seems to be fairly good continuity across the timeline. So I gave the Midnight Heir 3 stars because that was a short story. It was like 60 pages and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like outstanding or anything. It was comical. It made me laugh out loud and that was kind of fun. And of course I love Magnus Bane. So that one got 3 stars. So I made it through that chunk of short stories and now I am ready to start the Last Hours trilogy, but it's not going to be until after I finish this Legendborn read along, because the Legendborn books are really big and the Last Hours is like super chunky, like 600 to 700 pages, I want to say. So I'm trying to pace myself on my big books. So until I get through this trilogy along, I'm not going to pick up the Last Hours. I finished, I believe, I can't remember if I talked to you about it, but I finished Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I ended up really not liking it. So it's told from the child's point of view. And this child is supposed to be 8 years old. Bella is her name. But she's written more like a 4 to 5-year-old developmentally. And then because it's from the child's point of view, he does this thing where she pretends to be asleep and then her parents talk over her. And that's the only way we can get like the parents' perspective since it's told from the child's point of view. And that's the only trick he uses to get the parents' perspective. Instead of her like, I don't know, like I don't know how else he would do that, being told from a child's point of view. But that got really old because it happened like every chapter. She was pretending to be asleep and her parents were talking. And not only were they talking, but they were talking to her. And they were talking to her knowing that she was asleep and talking to her like she was their therapist instead of their child. And I don't know any parent that does that. I just don't. It just didn't make sense. I didn't like that. It got really old. It felt like a cheap trick because he couldn't think of any other way to get these perspectives, right? And then the ending, there are so many plot holes. It didn't make sense. It felt like, oh, I gotta wrap this up now, so we're just gonna do this. It's over. Like, no finesse really to this book. No, like, I don't know. I always feel like Josh Malerman to me reads like a high school student writing a horror story. Nothing against high school students, but it just feels like that level of immature and undeveloped. You know what I mean? And I have read high school student horror stories that were better than things that Josh Malerman writes. And he just does not work for me as an author, and I won't be reading any more of his stuff going forward, even if it's super hyped, because this one got super hyped. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll actually like this one. And I did like it at first, and then it just went downhill. So it was 2 stars, and I've never given Josh Malerman book anything more than 2 stars. So not going to waste my time reading any more of his work. I have read Daphne, and that was 2 stars. I've read The House at the Bottom of the Lake, which was 1 star. And then this one, which was 2 stars. So we're done with Josh Malerman in this house. I'm about halfway through Happy Ever After at Puddleduck Farm. Loving it. There's a little bit of conflict here and there, but it's all just like very normal, healthy, natural conflict. It's just so nice to be back in the little world with them. It's so peaceful. It's just, I cannot tell you what this series does for my brain and my nervous system. It is so soothing. It feels so safe. It feels like an antidepressant. It's like medicine for my brain and my soul. I love this series so much. On the topic of gardening and local foods, I want to share some catalogs from companies that I like. So first is Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. They have exactly what it sounds like. Really amazing seeds for vegetables, herbs, fruits, flowers, plants, etc. And they specialize in heirloom seeds, which means that they are not GMO. Heirloom seeds work really well if you want to do seed saving. Their catalogs are always absolutely stunning every year. Prices are okay for what they offer. But yes, I really love this company. There's another heirloom seed company actually based out of Iowa called Seed Savers Exchange. And I usually have one of their catalogs, but for some reason
I don't this year, and I don't know if they're late in sending it out or if I somehow fell off the mailing list. But Seed Savers Exchange is also another really wonderful seed company. Then, if you are interested in getting into chickens, I should also note that these are all US-based companies. If you are from another country and you have recommendations for companies within your country, please share them in the comments down below and we can get some conversations going. I know I do have some subscribers from France. I have some subscribers from Scotland. So like share your companies in the comments for seed companies, hatcheries, etc. Feel free to put them in the Discord as well. I have a whole channel on the Discord for gardening. Anyway, if you want to get into chickens, I have chickens primarily for eggs. I would like to get a larger egg production going eventually. The company that I use and like the best is Murray McMurray Hatchery. It's actually based here in Iowa. That is where I got my birds, and they were wonderful. And they also have a really lovely catalog. They have all different kinds of chickens available. They can send you fertilized eggs. They can send you live chicks. But then they also have other kinds of poultry. So they've got like turkeys, geese, ducks, peacocks, pheasants, quail, like all kinds of different kinds of poultry that you can raise. Oh, partridge. I think they have doves. Not very often, but sometimes they have doves. So yes, Murray McMurray Hatchery if you want to get into raising poultry. And then for my fellow rose lovers out there, y'all know I love my heirloom roses. I have a whole little cottage garden full. I get mine from the company Heirloom Roses. And so this is their 2025 catalog. And I have had wonderful experiences with this company. Hang on, let me open the catalog for you. Yeah, so there we go. So yeah, it's kind of a peek into their catalog. I've had really good experience. All of their plants have arrived super healthy. They've done really well in my garden. And I'm just really, really, really happy with the roses that I have gotten from Heirloom Roses. And they have some really gorgeous, gorgeous plants. If you are a rose lover, and they're for all different like planting zones. So whatever climate you're in, definitely read those descriptions on what zones they're hardy for. Because if I bought like a plant that was hardy for Florida, it's obviously not going to survive the -20 temperatures we get in the winter here in Iowa. So you do have to be careful about that and make sure you are picking the plant that will best suit the climate that you're in. But if you do that, oh my gosh, they're absolutely stunning. So those are 3 companies that I recommend if you're interested in getting into growing your own food, getting into poultry or roses. Hey, hi, hello. It is Friday, and I'm gonna have a little pizza party to celebrate. I don't know why I said it that way. Closing my dad's estate. If you're new here, my dad passed in 2022, and I've been the executor of his estate since then. He didn't have a will or life insurance, and it was a very difficult and long process for many different reasons, but it's all done. it's all done and wrapped up as of this week. So I'm celebrating with a little pizza party like we did in December. Might make this a monthly thing. We have a little party and celebrate our wins. So I just got like a frozen pizza from the grocery store, nothing fancy. But tell me down below at this month's January pizza party, what are you proud of from the month of January? What's something you accomplished that you're happy about? And leave me a pizza emoji. If you don't want to share what you're proud of, you want to keep that private, that's completely valid too. Just put in a pizza emoji and I'll give you a pizza emoji back, and we'll just ting. We'll cheers our pizza slices and celebrate each other's wins for the month. So if you're comfortable, tell me. If you're not, just leave me a pizza slice. I think my biggest win in January was closing his estate and getting that done and taken care of. And also surviving Influenza A. That was rough. Ugh. I don't wish that on anybody.
It's officially February 1st, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up this installment of my January vlog. I read, but I read mostly the ones that I'm filming for special videos, like I finished Legendborn and I am wrapping up Rope Me In. Both of those are for specific vlogs that I'm doing. So I don't really have anything new to share. I didn't finish any audiobooks. So that's it. That's a vlog. That's January. Wow, January. January always feels like a long month, doesn't it? But I hope you're all doing okay. If you want to leave me an emoji to let me know that you're here, go ahead and leave me any color of heart emoji that you would like to leave. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in the next vlog!